Nobody beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Brand new.
Hey, we're talking brand new Joe. Hey, we're on a brand new show. Deep dives, blow by blow. Spotting Uzis and crossbows. Like a buzzball or a pogo. Got ninjas like Don Shadow. Comics are how I spend my dough. We're coming to you in stereo. It's time for Talking Joe. With Mark and Tim, here we go.
Brand new.
Talking Joe is on the air.
Hey, it's me, Mark, coming to you from the far reaches of the Energon universe once again, also on the south coast of England as well. You are listening to Talking Joe, the G.I. Joe comics podcast. And if you are new to the show, you can find out all about us over at talkingjoe.co.uk. That is the website that we can be found. But today we are talking about the latest issue of G.I. Joe hitting the stands. It is G.I. Joe issue number 7 from Skybound, released Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025. At the time of recording, just this past week gone. But I will not be talking about that issue alone. As always, I will be joined by my co-host. It's the real American Tim. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, and hello, listeners. And since it's a video live stream, hello, viewers.
Indeed. So at the time of broadcast, we are live on YouTube. So as always, you can join in, give us a chat, a message, let us know you're there. We'll see it and potentially share it on screen like what I just did there. Tim.
Mark, are you wearing a particular t-shirt that relates to this issue of G.I. Joe?
It's not a Night Force themed, but it is G.I. Joe themed.
Oh, okay,
So this is a Codename Iowa released T-shirt.
Okay, I thought your windscreen in front of your mic is being the logo, and I thought so in the 80s, Night Force was black and its spot color was neon orange, and then when it came back 20 years later, did they change that spot color to like neon green? Is that why I thought your shirt? I'm in my Night Force. I've got my black shirts and my dark green shirt, and that's it. They don't say anything. This is I don't wear shirts that say things on them. But color wise, this is Night Force Tim. And I guess if I had hair, my blonde hair would actually be brown. I'd be a brunette.
I like that point as principle. My clothes don't say anything. If I'm going to say something, I'm going to say it with my mouth, my face, maybe written word, but not my clothes.
My frown.
My frown. Shout out to Infinite Entertainment. Hello, lads. Another great issue. Loved seeing the debut of Beach Head, let's say. Beachcomber is a transformer, isn't he? Did you see the editors of the TF Wiki are working on a G.I. Joe wiki on Mirage? I don't know that last word, but I was aware that the TF Wiki team were going to do a G.I. Joe wiki, although there is already a G.I. Joe wiki that does exist out there. I think Infinite Entertainment needs the wiki to make sure he's getting the right characters in his chat.
I think these two wikis should fight.
Which wiki is the best? Only one way to find out. Fight!
And then a third wiki can tell us what happened and who the winner was.
And then when Will Smith can get involved, and it can be wiki war. Wiki war. Wiki war. Sorry, Tim, were you about to say something?
No, that's you said it all.
So the listeners join us in the week that we have hit 900 plus YouTube subscribers. So thanks to all of our new subscribers and also our existing subscribers, as you are just as valued. In fact, we hit 900 and then we hit 899 for a little while, so that was fun.
I would like to thank our dozens of subscribers who subscribed years ago, don't remember that they subscribed, don't listen to the show anymore, but their subscription still means something to us. So thank you, lapsed Talking Joe fans.
And if you're listening, watching, you've not subscribed, shame on you, shame. No, do click on subscribe and all the rest of it. But Frank, give shout out to Frank. Love this issue a lot, but now that you mention it, adding Beachcomber to it would have only made it better, because this is the Energon universe. You can have Transformers also turning up. And Greg notes that when we talk about Wiki, we could also be talking about Spike Witwiki. So maybe he's the judge of the wikis.
Or, so many universes. Buster Witwiki, Sam Witwiki. I do think if Beachhead had needed a different escape from that beach, if only there had been a conveniently parked blue dune buggy that he could have made his escape on. And then you turn the page and the blue dune buggy would unfold into a giant metal man who'd say, "Hey man, why are you trying to get away so fast?"
And then Beachhead would say, "Oh boy." And then they're playing the Quantum Leap theme tune. Let's take a tour around the Skybound universe before we get stuck into issue number 7.
It's Skybound with the Talking Joe guys. Everyone calm down. We're here to talk comics. Skybound.
I'm really hoping you print out those lyrics and at Cobra Oki at the karaoke at Joe Fest in June. I'm really hoping you cue up Adele's Skyfall and regale us with your own version. Folks, Mark has almost promised me that by arriving earlier at Joe Fest this year than he did last year, he won't be so jet lagged. And I'm hoping that means he will make it to Cobra karaoke. All right,
the only question is, which of our jingles do I need to sing at the Cobra karaoke? Is it?
So all right. So
Devil's
what else?
Due Comics. Anyway, right.
What else has been happening? And also, there's some second print covers that we're gonna talk about briefly, right?
I've not prepared the second print covers, or have I? I might have done.
You know what? We could just make it up. It's a second print of an issue G.I. Joe cover, issue G.I. Joe. There's a white background, and there's a G.I. Joe or Cobra character drawn by Jason Howard standing there, and it's awesome.
My screen just went a bit wonky then. I was trying to find the second printing covers, but I'm calling this new segment 30 Days Around the Energon Universe. So if you know, then you know. So where am I going to start up? It's just checking back in on the Free Comic Book Day that we covered last time. Artist Andrea Milana has shared some of his progress pictures for creating the Energon Universe book, including the cover there. And when we last spoke about this particular cover on screen, which is the A for Energon Universe 2025 special, which is the paid version of the Free Comic Book Day issue, cover A, we sort of commented, doesn't Tom Reilly's art look very much like it's in the style of Andrea Milana? And there's a good reason for that, Tim. That reason being
that this cover was inadvertently credited to Tom Reilly, who did not draw it. It was drawn by Andrea Milana.
Indeed. So Tom Reilly did, in fact, draw one other, a different cover for the Energon Universe special, which was a spoiler-redacted cover with Matt Tracker in that sort of new design, redacted because he was, a big page turn reveal. So Tom Reilly, that one of those character profiles looking at his hand that we're used to seeing now, featuring on the front cover to Energon Universe. So this is another clue that I think that we're probably going to see more of Matt Tracker in the not too distant future. The other redacted cover was Hound, one of these isometric blueprint covers that artist E.J. Su has been drawing. So that was the other one that we didn't have available to see this time.
Interesting that Skybound has consistently eschewed picking artists who have drawn Transformers or G.I. Joe previously at IDW in favor of new artists, and E.J. Su is an exception. He drew like 15 or 20 issues of Transformers for IDW in the previous continuity, but is a longtime friend and collaborator of Robert Kirkman's, and is in fact drawing a new monthly series at Skybound called Blood and Thunder. So having him draw some variant covers is a good fit, because he's part of the Skybound team, and he draws excellent Transformers, and I should say excellent G.I. Joe vehicles.
So we also had G.I. Joe issue number 5, second printings, continuing this theme from Jason Howard of across Void Rivals, Transformers, and G.I. Joe, doing all of these second print covers. This time we've got Colonel Hawk on the G.I. Joe team, and we've got Ripper in his black and red new Cobra version of the outfit on the Cobra side.
And again, interestingly, Jason Howard draws these characters with, we're looking up at them. The camera, there's no camera, it's comics. The camera is at like kneecap height, and we are looking up at them. This is sort of the way that you would draw a Transformer. So they have a height and a heft to them. This is not like, the camera is not at 4.5 feet and you're looking them straight in the eyes or straight in the jaw. So there's an added subtle power in these second print poses from Jason Howard.
And then elsewhere in the Energon universe, we've got Void Rivals issue 19, which came out this very week, 28th of May. If you don't want any spoilers, then maybe just mute us while I leave this cover up on the screen.
I will wave my hands when you can come back, folks.
So this is advertised as a standalone Skuxoid epic. The breakout fan favorite of the Energon universe takes center stage. Who is Skuxoid? What is Skuxoid? This issue answers all of your burning questions and more, plus the first appearance of Wreck-Gar and the Junkians. So yeah, very interesting and different issue of Void Rivals, focusing in on Skuxoid and his ongoing adventures, which, even if you've not read the issue, you might intuit that perhaps he's not quite as dead as he was the last time we saw him. And also, it continues the adventures of that Cobra La character that was left behind with Skuxoid. So establishing this Royal Guard Cobra La character as a sort of a spin-off character in this Void Rivals universe. Tim, thoughts on this one?
Should I wave my... for those of you who haven't been following Void Rivals, it's half of it is just now a Transformers book. And it's focusing on what I would call season 3 characters, what you might call 1986 characters, or movie and post-movie characters. So volume 3 of the Void Rivals trade paperback series came out with the 3rd story arc that came out this week. And the cover is just Hot Rod. It's not the Void Rivals aliens. It's not the Void Rivals King or the Bounty Hunter guy or the Great Ring. It's just a 1986 Autobots. And Skuxoid,
going for that sweet Transformers dollar, I think.
And Skuxoid is a character who showed up in 2 or 3 episodes of season 3 in 1986 of the animated Transformers. Should I wave my hands now? Should people come back before this over?
Yeah, we could do that. Well, okay. We're going to continue We're going to continue with a separate set of spoilers now for Transformers issue 20, which was published on May the 14th, 2025. So a little while ago. And this one has some quite a big, interesting G.I. Joe related spoiler that I've not really seen people talking about. So I wonder how many of the G.I. Joe comics readers are paying attention to what's going on in the pages of Transformers, because there is a big first appearance there. So this issue was touted as "What's next for Optimus Prime?" The Autobots receive a group of allies who could change the tide of war with the Decepticons, but they don't know who or what is coming for them. This issue features key first appearances of fan favourite characters from the worlds of Transformers and G.I. Joe. So, Tim, this issue features the first appearance of
Doc. And he gets a scene almost all to himself. He gets 3 pages, and we learn a little bit about him. And he's older. He's got gray hair on his temples, and he refers to himself being, having been doing this a long time. There's also a reference to a Bible, and I did not reread Doc's 1983-4 file card. Is he Chaplin's assistant? Okay, that very good, Mark.
His second military specialty is Chaplin's assistant.
This makes me think 2 things. One, that maybe he is not going to show up in the main G.I. Joe book until there's some kind of sort of specific chapter, story arc crossover event, because so far characters like Hot Rod or Springer in Void Rivals, who are showing up in one book, are not showing up in another book. Also, it makes me think, okay, if Doc here is older, there's no indication that this next thing would actually happen. But as a fan who thinks about sort of legacy and references, I think, oh, if you're going to have an older Doc, is that so that you can have a younger Doc? Is that how you get a younger Black female Doc in monthly G.I. Joe? That's a wild guess, because that has happened in previous comics and action figures.
Yeah, I had the exact same thought. I think by having an older Doc, it leaves that door open that you can have those 2 characters exist in the same continuity simultaneously. Because when we've talked about new characters, we've sort of compared how they appear to the classified versions that this sort of universe is broadly inspired by, and there's not necessarily a huge amount of connectivity to the Doc classified figure, which is largely in keeping with the original V1 character. There's been an older Doc that has appeared in G.I. Joe Resolute. So I guess that could be one potential nod. Scotty Cameron said that his characterization was it reminded him of Max Brooks's Hearts and Minds. I've not read that recent enough to know exactly how Doc appeared in that particular one, but
that was an IDW miniseries where half the stories were Joe's and half the stories were Cobra. One other thing that I noticed. Go for it.
I was just going to say the other thing, sort of talking about keeping this Doc to Transformers or not, sort of makes me wonder. We sort of know that there's the core G.I. Joe team with Duke. There's now this Night Force, but there's also these other G.I. Joes as is appearing in Transformers. So how does that connect to those other teams? And also, how are the timelines sort of tracking? It's not completely clear how Transformers and G.I. Joe are tracking in terms of the timelines, the continuities. So
I'll say
it will be interesting to see how they line up eventually. Yeah.
Seattle has been being destroyed by giant robots for many issues now in a row in Transformers, and no one over in G.I. Joe has referred to that specifically, just robots. I wonder if Doc's team here and that, that generic arm patch guy that we saw 2 or 3 issues ago in Transformers when they did capture Ultra Magnus and Carly. Wonder if this is going to be, if not regular G.I. Joe and Night Force, I wonder if this is going to be Bot Force or Metal Force or Robot Force. In terms of Doc's appearance, I note here that on this page from Transformers number 20, he does have an orange-red detail on his sleeves, but they are not Red Cross signs. They are not crosses. They are not plus symbols. And that classified figure also does not have that, which reminds me of that change that Autobot Ratchet underwent 10 plus years ago in the comics, in the pages of, I guess, More Than Meets the Eye, where, Ratchet's 84 toy and 84 model sheet has 2 Red Cross symbols on his shoulders, right, a red plus sign. But the American Red Cross or the International Red Cross has not granted Hasbro the use of that symbol. And so they don't use that symbol anymore. And I think it was Alex Milne, but a clever artist for IDW changed that symbol on Ratchet's shoulder to sort of be 4 dots, which makes you think of a plus sign without it being a plus sign, without it being the Red Cross symbol. So anyway, here's Doc, and this is a new Doc for a new universe. The guy he's talking to seems to be not anyone in particular, right? Mm-hmm. There's no reference. The guy doesn't have like particular facial hair or like a particular weapon or tchotchke in front of him. He doesn't have a name tag. Doc just calls him Soldier. How's it going, Soldier? And so I think this scene is really just about Doc. And then
maybe Doc Zartan.
Maybe.
Okay. Very good.
Should I wave my hands now? Could people come back for the G.I. Joe discussion?
Come back. Unmute. So we are talking about G.I. Joe issue number 7 from Skybound. This was brought to us by the letters J and W, writer Joshua Williamson, artist, new artist to G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe title with number 7, Andrea Milana, but come previously from Cobra Commander and the Free Comic Book Day Energon Universe 2025 special, Andrea Milana. Colorist Lee, I've been saying Loughridge, but it might be Loughridge.
I believe it is Loughridge.
Okay. Letterer Russ Wooton, editor Ben Abernethy, publication design Andres Juarez, and production Ashby, Florence. Now,
let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
I was just going to say, while we're welcoming people to the G.I. Joe title, it's not just that artist Andrea Milana is new to the G.I. Joe title. Lee Loughridge colored the Scarlet miniseries, but is new to the specific G.I. Joe monthly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cover A, folks, is drawn and colored by Tom Reilly, and it's pretty striking, but for an unusual reason. The bottom 2/3 of the cover is all very dark, with just a handful of colors. Beachhead and Flint with their weapons are walking through some water, like waist high, shin high. It sort of reads like they're in a sewer, but it might also be like a reservoir or the beach. I think
because of that long horizon, I was thinking beach.
Okay, so I had thought that in the original art, Tom Reilly just inked black all the way up, and then publication designer Andres Juarez had added this crazy red, pink, yellow, blue sunset of clouds on the top third, so that a yellow logo type that says G.I. Joe could sit on top of it, and that there was just a way to make the cover really striking for being otherwise pretty dark. But now that you have shown us this version without the logo and the trade dress, I'm starting to think, oh, in Tom Reilly's original art, Tom Reilly stops inking black 2/3 of the way up and adds in this crazy sunset sky. And that line is, which is a like perfectly straight horizontal line, which to me says like designer, not, artist using a ruler. And I'm now thinking, oh yeah, they're coming out of the water at the beach, and that really is a sunset behind them. And the reason why I'm still not entirely convinced that sort of in Tom Reilly's intent that the sunset really is behind them is that I think if that sunset were behind them, I think there would be a little bit of a different sort of halo lighting accent on their sort of tops and edges. But either way, it's a striking combination. They both look like badasses, which is always it's not a prerequisite for a G.I. Joe cover, but it doesn't hurt. Carl
makes the point that his guess is the original art is only up to the black line. The sky is done digitally. I would very much expect the same thing, that when we see the original black and white art for this, that top third or whatever it is will be just completely white with that sky effect all being digital. But I think Tom liked the sky effect because on his Instagram post that I've cribbed this image from, he did do a couple of close-ups of the some of the detail in that sky.
But did he say I did this, or did he say someone else did this?
It was implied that he did it.
Okay.
I think the fact that he was sharing it and zooming in on it and not giving credit to anyone else.
Cool.
And he does color his own covers, so
Yes.
I would be very surprised if it was anyone other than Tom.
Okay, a couple little things. I had made a comment that certain color artists, when they're coloring Iron Man or Transformers, will find any circle or square on Iron Man's armor or a Transformer and make it a glowing light source, which I don't like, because it should just be like their eyes or like their one thing in their chest. Tom Reilly here has two tiny light sources on Beachhead's rifle, and they are not distracting. They're just cool. I think Flint is a lefty, although, covers are not literal scenes, so they can be exaggerations. And if Reilly in previous issues, future issues, if Milana in this issue, future issues, draws Flint as a righty, I'm not going to say that disagrees with the current of 7. Also, these two characters do specifically have their Star and Stripes G.I. Joe symbol on them. And we have, and then I'm flipping to page, characters do in the issue. So, Mark, have we seen that logo on Duke's squad's costume? Because we did see it in that issue of Transformers about 2 months ago, when some, I say this kindly, generic soldiers in, BDUs capture an Autobot. Anyway, okay, so
yes, like on Clutch's shoulder there on the Free Comic Book Day.
But again, that's a cover. Have we seen that in issues 1 through 6? Grab your comics, Mark. Why aren't you prepared? Why didn't you read my mind and know the question I was going to ask that I hadn't researched the answer to? Okay,
I would be very surprised if we've not, but
Cover
I think I'm pretty sure it does feature on most of their outfits somewhere.
Okay, which is to say, if anyone was to see or photograph Duke's team and this Flint team, Night Force, they might say, "Hey, those people over there and these people over there are together." And if Hawk is trying to keep these teams separate, logically the Night Force team might not have the logo, but I'm okay with it. This is a very small thing. I'm just noticing, hey, they've got those logos on.
It's the most important thing about a stealthy, anonymous Black Ops unit. Make sure you've got a very clear logo.
I mean, let's go back to, the conceit of Transformers, which is that they are robots in disguise, right? The idea is that, all right, Carl says it's been featured on their costumes in the series already. Scotty Cameron says it's on Duke's shoulders. Thank you both for fact checking me. I couldn't be bothered to. In 1984, I was a little kid and I bought an Autobot toy and it was a car, and I could think, just like the advertising and the show portrayed, I wasn't reading the comic yet, oh, that car in the parking lot in the Toys R Us, or down the street from us in the suburbs, could be an Autobot, right? But I also thought, well, I would know because it has an Autobot symbol on it. So it's having it both ways. So I'm okay with the symbol appearing on this team, and I'm okay with the symbol appearing on all of these guys. Cover B, should we talk about cover B? Cover B is drawn by Kael New, who has done some Marvel and DC covers, and this is Beachhead in the foreground, sort of just waist up. The whole cover has this really strong diagonal. The camera is tilted. Beachhead is looking kind of at us, but does he know that there's a threat behind him? Is he looking slightly? He's looking to the right. He's looking to his right.
Sort of looking out the corner of his eyes, like, oh, something's on my peripheral vision.
Someone's coming up behind him. So he's holding his rifle and pointing it sort of past us. Behind him is a bloodhound, one of Major Blood's soldiers, who has a big sort of machete and is sort of lunging and swinging, ready to take off Beachhead's head. It is nighttime. We are in a fancy sort of penthouse suite mansion. There's a bunch of light blue light coming in from the window. There's like one of those giant couches that makes you think like rich guy's mansion on the beach. And there's some stairs in the distance, which sort of just adds to the height of this whole space. And I just want to point out one more thing. I'm a little sad over on the pages of A Real American Hero that the G.I. Joe logo type can only be white letters with a black outline with a red and a white and a blue stripe. I understand for brand management why you do that. The Energon universe G.I. Joe logo type can and does change every issue and every cover, because on the A cover it's yellow, so it sort of acts like the sun. And here it's red, and it just slightly picks up a little bit of red on Beachhead's rifle, and really pops in front of the sort of hazy gray, lavender, blue, dark backgrounds. Okay, cover C.
I just wanted to say on cover B, when I first saw this as like a little thumbnail image in the original solicitations, I thought, is that Zartan? Are we finally seeing Zartan? Because when you're sort of squinting, you've got that sort of Zartan sort of metallic sort of shoulder sheen and the chest armor. The helmet sort of flaring out looks like a hood. The sort of the black sort of sunglasses things that he's got on looks a little bit like Zartan's eye makeup. So I did think Zartan, and then I looked a bit more closely. No, it's a Bloodhound. Cover C.
Have I expressed my disappointment recently that Bloodhound is not spelled Bluddhound? Okay, cover C. It's drawn by Alan Quah. We are looking at a desk or a table that is covered with maps and a pistol and a pencil and some bullets and some photos with a paper clip, and one of the photos is clipped to a folder. The main photo is Beachhead sort of falling while blasting, or like running with bullets zipping past him from behind. And then another photo that's more a portrait of Flint, which is in sepia tone. He's got his shotgun sort of up to his chest as if he's cocking it. And then another photo that's smaller of Lady J. We're looking up at her. She's pointing a big ass gun down at her. There's a bit of a light source on 2/3, 3/4 of this cover, as if maybe there's a lamp nearby. Oh yeah, one of those lamps with the chain that have it that bank managers have. It's got the green ceramic top, and it's got a chain that you pull. It's the lamp that all of our grandfathers had, and there's a lot of green and sort of yellow on the maps below all this. And so what this cover says is, we are someone important looking at a bunch of profiles or intelligence on sort of the people we're sending on this mission. And I believe, so this is the 1:10 ratio variant. I believe this is connecting. So
that's right.
This will
we'll
connect.
See 6 similar covers, I would expect, across this arc.
Yes. Okay, and then cover D, drawn and colored by Jeff Spokes. Once again,
who is the to-go guy for these explosion covers. This is probably like the 7th or something that we've probably seen by now from Jeff Spokes.
When they first started, these look like the 1982 toy packaging. It's that brush strokes, blobs of paint, white, yellow, orange, red, Hector Garrido style explosion. When we saw those across the miniseries, there were a bunch of different artists, and it seems now with just the one monthly series, Skybound can sort of focus on just having one artist, fewer artists. Greg Augustin points out here, Beachhead is lefty. I might just assume that every Joe, like John Quincy Adams, is ambidextrous. John Quincy Adams, who wrote a lengthy diary entry every night and wrote so much he taught himself to write with both hands. Okay, so here, Beachhead, and that is your Tim Finn history lesson of the episode. Beachhead here is kneeling. He's looking off to the right, his left. He's holding both his machine gun rifle as well as a very cool knife. This drawing is great for several reasons. It passes the silhouette test. If you were to black this out, you'd know exactly how this character is posed, and you'd know what they're holding. You'd say, oh, they have a machine gun in one hand and a knife in another, right? There's no sort of awkward bunching or overlap. You could tell this person's kneeling. Spokes has a nice sort of highlight, has a nice series of highlights on Beachhead's sort of top and right. I keep thinking his line is so clean and his drawings are so precise. I can't wait for him to draw I should say another limited series or a monthly book that I want to read. He just finished with writer Tom King, the Jenny Sparks miniseries. The paperback of that came out this week. If you're an Authority fan, you know who that character is over at DC. Jeff Spokes, please draw more for the Energon universe than just these lovely covers. That was the 1 in 25. Now we're on to cover E, A, B, C, D, E. This is drawn by Homare. It's the 1 in 50, 10, 25, 50.
Yep.
This cover is, there's no literal background. This is sort of a montage treatment. Beachhead's in the background. Flint is in the sort of middle ground. Lady J is in the foreground. They're not sharing literal physical space. They've sort of been comped in together. Like in a movie poster style, there's this strong up, down, left, right sort of plus sign graphical elements in the background that I don't think is describing anything too literal. It sort of reads as like, warehousey wall catwalk stuff, like metal, help me out, Mark, just like metal sort of wall stuff.
Yeah.
And much of the background is white. So this is pretty striking. This pops from afar. Interestingly, in the value structure scale, right? If pure white is a 1 and pure black is a 10, 5 is a middle gray. There's very little 10 in here. This cover is actually quite light on the value scale, right? Like Beachhead, he doesn't disappear, but there's no like middle dark or dark in him. And same for Flint's. The black of Flint's shirt is, that's like a 6 on a scale of 10. It's not black. That's like almost middle gray black. And these characters are styled a bit more like anime, like manga. And Lady J has a Rob Liefeld chiclet gun. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with her classified toy. Does Lady J's newest toy, Mark, come with a Rob Liefeld chiclet gun? I'm being mean.
I can remember.
This doesn't actually shoot chiclets, but it is in the shape of a Rob Liefeld chiclet gun. So the actual like opening at the front, I think this would shoot regular bullets or maybe laser beams. But from afar, you'd think chiclet gun. And then A, B, C, D, E, F. Cover F is the 1 in 100. It's drawn by Derek Chu. It's Lady J. She's holding her javelin behind her back, sort of like a how would you describe this pose? Like it's going to be sort of fight choreography. Like she's going to sort of spin and twirl and flip it down. She's not hurling it. She's not like thrusting it in front of her. She's not bracing herself with it. She has it sort of taut and balanced behind her at a diagonal. She's looking right at you.
She's just about to get into a duel with Ahsoka Tano, I think.
It feels, yeah, maybe a little bit like this could be a Jedi holding a lightsaber kind of pose. Behind her are a bunch of sparks that I think we saw on the movie poster for The Brutalist and the movie poster for G.I. Joe and the movie poster for Rise of Cobra. These sparks that show up in a lot of movie posters nowadays, coming off from below and to the left of whoever's standing there. Behind her, here Lady J is sort of 2/3. We're seeing her from mid-thigh and up. Help me out, Mark. The background, I'm seeing a star, and I'm seeing
it looks
olive
like
drab.
to me like,
is it the Skyhawk?
like a tank. I think it's a tank.
The tank. Okay.
I think we're seeing sort of like the bottom half and the sort of coming into the treads, and then the top half is like the top of a tank. The rotating component. I reckon that's what that is.
Out of focus. She's very in focus. This Lady J costume, this redesign by Tom Reilly that we're seeing on several of these covers and in the issue, very much adds white to her palette. I think of Lady J as all green, green and green, or light green and middle green because of the old toy, because of the 80s cartoon. And here she has not a shirt that's tucked in, but a vest, and under it is a white t-shirt.
Next
blank cover G, blank cover, so you can get people to draw on it. And cover H, we're looking at the front and the back. This is a die cut cover. So the actual bound part that's like the full cover is the white with the black burst, and then sort of the second layer is Beachhead's head that gets folded in half. So if you're looking at this as just a regular comic book, you see the right side of Beachhead's head, and the left side of his head wraps around to the back cover. And this refers back to the Andrea Milana Cobra Commander die cut cover for G.I. Joe issue 1. And this one was open to order, right? This was not a ratio variant.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you get some of these into the store, Tim?
Not many.
Okay.
I mean, the demand for Energon Universe variants has cooled a bit.
Interesting.
At my store, I should say. I can't speak for all of eBay or the world.
The world.
But at the same time, people are asking us about absolute Green Lantern and absolute Flash variants. So.
Right. I see.
Also, we're not much of a variant store.
But Tim, enough chat about all of the regular covers. When do we get to see the obligatory Baroness cover?
Mark, are there retailer exclusive variants for G.I. Joe issue 7?
Well, as you ask, yes, there is. And the first one is G.I. Joe issue number 7, Ivan Talaveria, 616 Baroness exclusive, which releases, which went for pre-release on the April to 22nd on 616 app and 616comics.com. And you'll notice, Tim, that there is a cover with the Baroness on the screen.
Why are there so many covers of Baroness?
Okay, that's enough of that.
This is a nice drawing. The light is beautiful. Baroness waist up, holding a rifle, not standing in a sexy pose, just standing, and looking right at us. And let's say she's in Monument Valley, but Baroness is not in this issue, is not mentioned in this issue. And I get the sense she's not going to be in this whole story arc. So if you're a retailer or an artist and you're doing an exclusive cover, you have a lot of leeway and you should pick what you like and what you think would sell. I kind of think this image could wait until the start of the next arc when presumably we'll see the Baroness. Because, at this point, why not have like Megatron on your cover? It's like, well, he's in the same universe and he sells books.
Spoilers. We are going to see the Baroness very soon because I've seen the solicits. So.
Well, okay. Why not say this for one or two issues?
There's a hint of it in this very issue. This cover also forms a combined image with the previous exclusive, which featured Chameleon. I'm not going to play the jingle. It's all right. We'll save it because that was last issue. So.
Any other retailer exclusive variants?
That is all of the retailer exclusive variants for now. Right. So what up next? I think it is a plot breakdown. Sound about right? Let's see what does. I think Baroness's armor might have the arc reactor underneath it. Right. Okay. So let's get into a plot breakdown.
Plot breakdown.
It's a prologue. At the pit, CoverGirl has been sorting out Colonel Hawk's paperwork and comes across references to Night Force. Hawk tells her not to worry her pretty little head about that. Cut to a fancy beachfront property belonging to Victor Foley, a wealthy collector. Beachhead is on a mission to steal a shipment arriving from Darklonia. Arriving early, he has been hiding, awaiting its arrival. He takes out guards on the outside before finding the newly delivered crate, but he is not alone. One of Major Blood's bloodhound mercenaries is also there. They fight using antique swords from the collection. The first bloodhound down, a further 5 appear. As they fight, the crate is chained to a truck and dragged away. Beachhead is able to disconnect the truck chain, but is surrounded by bloodhounds on motorbikes. A winch drops from a Skyhawk piloted by Lady J and Flint to lift the crate and Beachhead away. The bloodhounds are left empty-handed, and Major Blood appears and guns down his team for their failure. He says he hopes he would draw out her team. I spoke that in capital letters, by the way. Beachhead thinks that he blew his mission and would end up getting put out to pasture as a trainer. Flint tells Beachhead that he wants Beachhead for his team, not Duke's team fighting robots, but for top-secret shadow operations. They open the crate to reveal the remains of a bat robot. There we go. That was issue number 7 in a relatively large nutshell. Tim, initial reaction?
I like the issue. It's a great start of a new arc. It does refer in 1 or 2 bits of dialogue and on its first page to things that are happening elsewhere in this series. The previous story arc. It didn't occur to me that this was a sort of self-contained issue because the final page does feel like it's setting up more. But the third paragraph of the letters page, or the second paragraph of the letters page, Joshua Williamson says, this was the first of a few standalone issues that we'll be doing in our run on G.I. Joe. Sometimes they will introduce new characters or to spotlight a particular story, but I promise you they will never feel like filler. And not a bad thing. This didn't jump out at me as a self-contained, as a standalone issue. I can see now how it is. And then I thought, is this whole story arc standalone issues. Is the next issue going to be like Flint, and the next issue is going to be Lady J, and we'll get this second arc that introduces us to all of Night Force, this other G.I. Joe team. But maybe it seems like this second arc is not. And then the third thing that jumped out at me,
just to talk to that point, I think I'm getting the sense that these are going to be standalone, but with a bit of connective tissue between them, such that you can take them as a standalone issue, but there's going to be a bigger story that unfolds with a sort of an overall arching theme. And the collection that these 6 issues will be combined into is called Blood's Revenge. So I think that will be the overarching theme, and we sort of certainly get a hint of it in this particular issue.
Right, and later on in a later episode, we can talk about who Blood might want to have revenge on and why, as depicted in previous issues. And then the third thing that jumped out at me is how much I love Andrea Milana's art. How it's pretty different from Tom Reilly, but in the grand scheme of comic book art styles, they actually have a lot in common, and it does just pick up really nicely from these previous 6 issues. This is not like a record scratch giant stylistic change. At the same time, while I really like Lee Loughridge's work here, and I really liked it on the Scarlet series, I'm a little sad because Loughridge's colors here are not as much fun and crazy as Jordi Belaire's colors on Tom Reilly's art in the previous 6 issues. And it's just sort of Loughridge is changing his palette from scene to scene. When we're in the mansion, there's a lot of like purples, and during that fight before it, there's a lot of yellows, and then Beachhead's outside, during the getaway, and there's a lot of, greens and blues. But there's never a panel, there's never like a 2-page scene where just everything is blue because someone has like an electrical thing, and then like 2 panels are like white background and all the foreground characters are orange. And then you turn the page and like 2 panels in a row are like all pink. And I know that's not for everyone. I love it. And I think it made the first 6 issues look so great. And so I will call Lee Loughridge's approach on this issue quite strong and more traditional.
Yeah. And talking to the point that we were making about standalone issues as well, Kael makes a good observation that it also means that if we're badging these as standalone issues, that they could be happening at almost any point in time or simultaneously, and they don't have to follow chronologically one after the other and line up with events, other events in the timeline, like the events of Transformers that are sort of unfolding over there to some grand effect. I wanted to touch on Night Force, because obviously Night Force is a big part of this story, part of the big unveiling. It is the name of this shadow team. We don't necessarily know a huge amount about it as yet, other than Colonel Hawk is the kind of the man leading it, ostensibly. And CoverGirl is not allowed to know about it. And we've got Flint and Lady J in the Force. We had a big hint of it, both with the actual introduction 1 year ago in the pages of the Energon Universe Special 2024, where we found out about this separate team with Flint and Lady J. So it is like literally a year on between that appearance and when we next see them. But we also got the name Night Force printed as a logo on the front cover of one of the G.I. Joe ash cans that was given away at a con appearance. Was late summer last year when they were doing a number of these G.I. Joe #1 ash cans with the kind of logo front covers. And it's nice to see as well that we've got connectivity between that first arc and this one with the Tom Reilly covers, but we've also got his design work because in the pages of this very book, NYCC Ashcan, I have cribbed a picture of the back of these of what the comic taken by a Mr. Greg Augustin. So thanks, Greg. This image on screen is cribbed from you, which gave a page each to Flint and Lady J, and they in the wording at the bottom, for Flint, it says Flint was a Rhodes Scholar who traded in academia for special forces and is now the leader of the covert group, blacked out, redacted. That word is obviously Night Force. And we also found out a bit about Lady J with a graduate degree in hand and a mastery of 8 languages. Alison Hart Burnett, codename Lady J, is a Special Forces intelligence officer of the highest order and a member of Redacted, aka Night Force. And we also, as well as these two designs coming from Tom Reilly, we also found out that Beachhead design was also done by Tom Reilly. So the look of Beachhead here is a Tom Reilly invention rather than a direct comic kind of adaptation.
I remember when I spoke with Tom Reilly in November after he signed at my store, I asked him about the timeline after finishing the Duke miniseries and starting the G.I. Joe miniseries. Because that was months and months, and maybe he was going to draw something else, 2 issues of something for DC, or and he said he didn't. There was not a lot of time between finishing Duke and starting G.I. Joe, and I said dumbly, "Oh, what did you do?" And he said there was a lot of design work, and of course, issue 1 of G.I. Joe was longer than a normal comic, so maybe we can assume some of these drawings are the kind of thing that he was doing. And I think sometimes my lazy brain looks at this drawing of Flint or Lady J or Beachhead just standing there with their costume and a gun, and I think, oh, well, that's like 1/8 of a page. That's easy to draw. That wouldn't take very long. And recently I was communicating with an art director who's storyboarding for this animated film, and she said, I want to hire a character designer and a professional animation character designer. I want to give her a week for every character, and that's like full time. It's like Monday through Friday, 8 hours a day roughly. And I think about when I was in college, assignments where the teacher would say no, do like 20 designs. Like, you're going to get a good design after you do a whole bunch and you start mixing and matching. Do research, right? And so just because it's like, well, Tom Reilly looks at a Flint costume and he looks at the classified figure and he looks at the old toy and he looks at the cartoon, he just mixes them together and simplifies it and draws it one time. Like, no, that all takes hours and hours and hours. That's drawing and that's auditioning ideas and that's research and that's like going to YouTube and finding a still from the cartoon. Right. And that's like looking up the toy and, like drawing the gun belt a second time because the first time it was too big. Yes. So character design is not instantaneous or necessarily easy.
And also, sort of weapons, extras, accessories design from Tom as well. So I think that rectangular gun that Lady J had, that you called out earlier on the cover, seems to be an adaptation of the one that Tom had designed in this sort of character study.
So I've done my 3 broad strokes for the issue. Mark, do you have a overall reaction to this issue?
I like that it's a one and done, and it's a sort of this different approach, and I like that they're taking a measured approach to expanding out the character roster for G.I. Joe, and sort of essentially taking an issue to spotlight Beachhead here in particular, and that he's a bit more fleshed out as a character and not just a here's another sort of generic Joe being added onto the roster and expanding out the numbers. They sort of, really do a lot of interesting sort of, as well as it looking great. I think the sort of the narration that Beachhead does a lot of heavy lifting in terms of explaining where he is at in his life and his motivations and all of these kind of things.
There's a thing he wants and there's a thing he doesn't want.
Like, yeah, the hero's journey. It's like, so he wants to remain in the field as an agent. He sees this as his last chance to kind of, show that he's capable. And what he doesn't want is to be put out to pasture as a trainer, which, and it sort of really talks back to kind of the inspiration, a lot of, that underlying DNA of G.I. Joe. It sort of all comes back to the original toy, the original file card. And in the original file cards, he is, they talk about that he's an instructor at Ranger School. In the cartoon, they use him a lot more like a drill instructor, which is kind of what he doesn't want to be in this issue. And they also say this great bit here in the file card, which when I reread sort of, was a bit of a huzzah moment to the issue. They say he enjoys squatting motionless beside a jungle trail for 3 days straight, waiting to ambush bad guys that might never show up, which is exactly what happens in this particular issue when he is hidden for three days, and waiting for the bad guys to show up.
And Mark, when you say they as sort of the authorial voice of that file card, you mean Larry Hama, who wrote that file card. Yeah, I think that because G.I. Joe the movie, the animated one from '87, looms so large in a good way for a lot of fans, even though it doesn't have as high a profile as Transformers the movie. If you ask a casual G.I. Joe fan one thing about Beachhead, I feel like they can describe to you his costume. You're like, oh, he's got, you can only see his eyes. And
that green balaclava guy, right?
Yeah. And like, oh, he's the drill instructor guy who doesn't like those new guys in the movie. Because that gets like 4 scenes. And he ends up sort of intersecting with a major plot of the movie, which is that, he catches Falcon goofing off. And so he punishes Falcon, and that's Falcon screwing up is why Serpentor gets away. So I feel like having this issue refer to some of these sort of high points of sort of the collective knowledge of Beachhead is both reasonable and fun. I have interrupted you. What other reactions do you have overall, Mark? Or you want to get into some specifics?
I think we talked about a lot of the high level. I think it's sort of. I think Andrea Milano, great to see him back. Really loved his work on Cobra Commander, and I think his style is really sympathetic with Tom Reilly, so it doesn't feel at all jarring, sort of going between the two artists. I was talking about Night Force though, and I forgot to mention one particular point, which is that it was it's interesting that they're introducing Night Force. There's a synchronicity with what's happening in the toys, because in the world of classified toys, they've also got Night Force being introduced as a sub team, but they're sort of diverging a little bit, because here we've got Night Force being Beachhead, Lady J, Flint. None of these 3 characters are Night Force characters in the classified G.I. Joe, which consists of the likes of Big Ben, Tunnel Rat, Shooter, Shockwave, probably a few others that aren't immediately coming to
for
mind.
that matter. None of these 3 characters in this new issue in Night Force were in Night Force in 1987 and 1988 in the original toy line. That was for Charbroil and Tunnel Rats and others. So it is worth. I have a note here let's spell it out. This is Night Force, but without familiar Night Force color schemes or even established team members. So Joshua Williamson is using a term, is using a G.I. Joe subgrouping in a fun way. And if I was like a really grumpy purist fan, I'd say, well, this isn't Night Force. They're not doing specific night missions in their night colors. And then I'd remember what my brother said to me when we bought our first Night Force toys in, I think, 1987. We were excited because it's cool. And we didn't realize it was a Toys R Us exclusive, but it was a Toys R Us exclusive. And it was a second chance to get a few figures, and they were in these different color schemes. And in the case of two of them, much better color schemes than their original. But my brother said, he said, you know, this is kind of silly. I mean, G.I. Joe would conduct many of its missions at night, and they would just wear all black and put like, you know, face paint on or like black masks. G.I. Joe doesn't need this excuse. And he didn't say this next sentence, but it's like, no, this is a toy solution to a non-existent problem for you and me as kids. This is not actually what real people would do. And so, you know, this is Williamson using a familiar term. You know, he could have easily called this team like, you know, G.I. Joe Beta Squad, you know, to Duke's Alpha Squad, or, you know, anyway. Okay,
yeah,
so
and to specify as well, when we're talking about not part of Night Force, we're thinking original wave of Night Force. There is going to be a beachhead coming to Night Force in the world of Classified as a 2-pack with Quick Kick, cool. But that will be inspired by the 2004 Night Force beachhead from the 3 3/4 inch, where there was this later wave in 2004 of this specific Night Force look, which looks
8-pack or like a 10-pack.
It was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-pack.
6-pack, okay. I get mixed up.
Which did have Flint in that same pack, actually. But yeah, it featured a very different look. It was a kind of like a green and sort of black, sort of checkered almost, with like black and grey trousers. So yeah, looking quite different to the beachhead that we're seeing here. But yeah, there certainly has been quite a big expanded Night Force over the years.
Hey, while we're on the page, while we're looking at the page that we're looking at right now, Mark, folks, if you're only listening, this is page 4. This is the page turn splash of Beachhead popping up out of his ditch that he dug in the sand with some kind of cover, like a blanket cover. He kills these 2 guards. And I was struck by this, Mark, because on page 2, in his captions, he says, this guy's guards are exemplary. He didn't go for cheap mercenaries, soldiers for hire. These guys are top dollar badasses. Long shifts, hunt in pairs, back up on alert just 90 seconds out. And he doesn't stun them or tie them up. He sanctions them. He kills them. And that jumped out at me because I'm sure he's not disobeying orders. I'm sure he's been allowed to do this. And that somewhere in his mission briefing, either these hired soldiers or the rich guy they work for are actually criminals. But the issue does not say that.
No. There's a hint potentially that he's got this guy's maybe got slightly grey moral boundaries, and any billionaire is, you know, slightly suspicious generally. This billionaire in their armed beachfront property, you know, why if you've got such high class top dollar badasses with automatic weapons, with long shifts that hunt in pairs with backup. On alert 90 seconds out. Would you have that if you didn't think you'd maybe made a few enemies over the years?
Right, but again, if you've made, you know, like, you can be a rich jerk who's made enemies. Are the guards you've hired, can an American soldier kill them or, you know, like take them into custody? I'm not arguing with it. I just feel like there might be a line. a snippet of dialogue or caption that could be there that wasn't. I'm not mad at Beachhead. It's okay. But it's not like these guys Beachhead doesn't also say like, oh, these guys are wanted for kidnapping.
No. He doesn't make any, I guess, particular character aspersions against these guards being bad dudes in themselves, and they're not working for a terrorist organization or anything like that. But I think it's talking to the professionalism of Beachhead that he's on this mission. He says sneaking up on them is next to impossible. That he's not able to necessarily take them out silently in a non-lethal way and proceed at pace. The most effective way of doing it is unfortunately to shoot them right in their old domes.
I do think that maybe based on the battle android trooper that the rich jerk in this issue is trying to collect, Victor Foley, maybe that's the explanation enough that you are, even a rich person who's somewhat untouchable, you're not allowed to own a terrorist organization's
experimental weapons,
battlefield detritus. You have to turn that over to the authorities, and if you don't, Beachhead can come to you.
And talking to some of Beachhead's narration, doing a lot of subtle heavy lifting. The page isn't overloaded with words, but the words there sort of do contain a certain amount of meaning or weight or relevance. And just mentioning here that they've got backup on alert just 90 seconds out kind of helps explain why does Beachhead not just shoot the baddies that he encounters later on or whatever. He's trying to keep things quiet, and similarly those guys are also trying to keep things quiet so as to avoid Foley's backup arriving and making things more complicated.
I want to. Can we go back to page 1 if you have a visual for this? Two things jump out, which I like about page 1. In panel 1 of page 1, we see yet another reminder that the pit is being constructed, taken out of mothballs, built up. That's cool. But also the third panel to the fourth panel, right? This is a subtle thing. And if Andrea Milana is the finger quotes film director here, right, choosing camera angles, this is not like sheer brilliance. This is not rewriting the rules. This is just good drawing and storytelling. This is just good camera placement. Hawk says, that predates your time with me, CoverGirl. Nothing for you to worry about. I'll handle these extra files from here. Why don't you leave the room and go do that other thing? And so she hands him some papers and he puts them in the shredder. Now, just imagine, if you're looking at this page, if Milana had taken the third panel and copied it and pasted it as the fourth panel, and Hawk had taken a step to the right and put those papers in the shredder, and instead of looking straight at Hawk, CoverGirl was looking diagonally down at that shredder, you'd think, oh, she notices that. Oh, he's shredding that. But because Milana places the, quote, camera at 3 feet off the ground, or 4 feet, how 38 inches, how tall is a desk, places the camera right behind the shredder, looking and past it at CoverGirl, and then putting the camera at a Dutch angle, so the up and downs of the doors and the wall trim are not up and down; they're at a diagonal, right? Camera's tilted. Milana accentuates that. CoverGirl sees what's happening. What's happening is important, and she's reacting specifically to what is happening, right? And so the subtext here is Hawk is hiding something. CoverGirl notices it, and we notice CoverGirl noticing it. And that's just a small thing, but I really like that fourth panel because Milana didn't have to compose the shot that way, but what is the maximum effectiveness for this story beat? This one, right? If you did a reverse angle, if the camera was like just over her shoulder, looking from behind her, like down, if it was like sort of POV, what's she seeing? Like, well, that would also do it. But this one, you see her reaction, and she's moving slightly. See how her hair's bouncing? She's turning, and then the panel gets cut in half by this orange sound effect, right? Which is pretty jarring, right? So everything about this panel, I mean, maybe if Jordi Belair had colored it, the fax machine would be like pure yellow, and everything else would be like blue brown or something. And it's like, oh my God, what is this fax machine? Lee Loughridge, I like your stuff. But just some strong work here on just a scene where two people in an office are talking and holding paper.
And as well as all of that stuff going on, there's also a little reminder that Duke is recovering from his fight with Cobra Commander, so it's just touching base with that plot point. You know, he's been bashed up and he's recovering. We're probably not going to see so much of him because he's in a bad state. We get reminder of this sort of Hawk CoverGirl dynamic. That was how they were introduced, as a kind of a pairing in the series, and similar to Rise of Cobra, where they guess had that dynamic. The CoverGirl was Hawk's right hand gal.
But she's not his secretary, right?
No.
Like I got the sense in Rise of Cobra, because it's like her office was down the hall from his office,
right?
And then
a little bit more.
kills her. But I did look. Okay, Greg Augustin reminds us of a term, CoverGirl, aide de camp. But I did look at her, the one file card I did look at before this episode, that her primary military and her secondary military specialty, it's not secretarial, file keeping or archivist. It's like, mechanical stuff, vehicle stuff, AFV. And so I don't mind this. Joshua Williamson is not being sexist for having Hawks number 2 do slight paper pushing while being a woman. That's not what I'm seeing. But if that's most of what she does, I'm going to come back to this.
And she was certainly out in the field on the last mission. And if you remember, she was injured. And I did sort of ask out loud, the fact that she's an ex-model and stuff, that element of her character being quite important, and would she be left with scarring and so on? That doesn't necessarily seem to be the case here. So maybe that is not a long-lasting injury. I'm going to repeat a recurring idea of mine as well, that somewhere out there in the world of G.I. Joe is Zartan. When we saw a reference to him in Cobra Commander, Zarana said that she can't risk contacting him and blowing his cover. So Zartan is out there. I'm wondering, could it be CoverGirl? Maybe? Getting in there, looking through the Joe's paperwork, asking questions. Potentially.
I think it's the Shredder. Sorry. Okay, jumping ahead, I'm going to jump ahead to page 9, since we're going out of order, unless you want to talk about the fun action as Beachhead discovers the thing he's supposed to find and sort of maneuvers getting it out of there. Just this little thing I just want to call out on page 9, a thing that I like and a thing that could use a tiny bit more. Is
this the page with the first appearance of
the Bloodhound?
Gone too far. The first appearance of the Bloodhound.
Page 9 has all the fight. The next one, page 9 has all the fighting.
Okay.
I just want to point out a thing that I don't like and a thing that I do. In the third panel here, cool pose, very cool pose as Beachhead blocks the sword slash from the Bloodhound. Behind Beachhead are 3 things that are sort of gray purple, and I know from context what they are. It's a little unclear what they are, because in the previous panels, the suit of armor is very much indirectly shown. It's like a half a page earlier. I get it. He's backing up and like bumping into a suit of armor, and its pieces are falling to the ground. But since the background does drop out during most of this fight, I thought, what are those three things? And then I thought, oh yeah, it's like shoulder pad armor, helmet armor, chest plate armor, or something. But Andrea Milana does really wonderful work every panel of this comic. So that is the smallest complaint. What I think is funny is in panel 7 on this page is that on the bottom, Beachhead kicks the Bloodhound, and the sound effect is pow. And that just did a tiny bit of rewriting in my head, because in my mind, pow is the sound effect of a gun or a punch. And here it is, a kick. And I thought, I guess that's fine. I guess what is the sound effect of a kick? How would that be that different from a punch? And I don't know what to do with this feeling, with this revelation, with this curiosity. So I'm just going to let it sit. This is not me saying Andrea Milana picked the wrong sound effect, right? And we have established that Andrea Milana lives in Italy, right? An English second language. Although sound effects are probably coming from Williamson's script, but we have also established that the sound effects in Andrea Milana's Energon Universe comics are hand lettered by Andrea Milana. They're not coming from Russ Wooton, the letterer. Anyway.
Yeah. Pow is one of those like Batman 66 type sound effects that I think of, and that's subsequently used in newspaper headlines. You know, bam, blam,
Yes.
pow. Comics aren't for kids anymore.
Just for kids anymore. I just corrected someone using that as an example a week ago. Someone who's like, someone who was describing a comics event, and it's like sort of this indirect, like, not for kids anymore. It's like, no, we're decades past that. So yes, I often think of bam, pow, pop, comics aren't just kids for anymore. Anyway, so Mark, let me hand the mic back to you now that I've talked
I
about
thought this
pow.
page was interesting as well. So we've sort of introduced to the Bloodhound on the previous page, sort of who is lurking in the shadows with a knife before they is it a knife, a long knife, short sword? Before he's
mini machete.
before he's noticed by Beachhead, and it's you know what that cover that we were talking about earlier was fairly directly referencing, and they're getting into this fight with sort of ancient weaponry taken from the cases that this guy has collected, and it's got this very specific curved blade that is used in this fight, which I think as any G.I. Joe fan would go, "Oh, I recognize the shape of that blade. That is the Night Creeper's sword." And I wondered, with this like sort of slightly purple color palette, that there's a bit of almost indirect referencing to sort of the, you know, this guy, you know, are they like a proto Night Creeper almost?
I think that purple is just a color that Lee Loughridge uses. I think as a Joe fan, you can make that connection. I don't think that connection is on purpose.
And as well, let's talk about this reference to. so Foley collects old weapons from different eras, and he does somewhere make a reference to him being a collector. Yeah, so he's got too much money, and instead of donating money or helping people, he collects. And I think as G.I. Joe comic collectors, toy collectors potentially, are we a little bit seen here? Do we feel a little bit bad?
Are you feeling criticized, Mark?
Is Beachhead pointing fingers? Don't look at this. Don't look at it, Beachhead.
I appreciate that if Joshua Williamson is getting meta in his script, he does it here with a very light touch, because it's not as if there's a bunch of like, you know, lead painted historical military miniatures also in glass cases. It's like, no, this is like that scene in the 1989 Batman movie with, you know, like samurai armor it's like, okay, there's a cannon here, and there's samurai, or there's knights, medieval knight armor, and more medieval knight armor. I had forgotten that this second arc is called Blood's Revenge. I was sort of only paying attention to cover A, and so the appearance of a bloodhound was a surprise to me. The appearance of more bloodhounds was a surprise to me, and then the appearance of Blood himself was an even bigger surprise to me. And
when the first guy appeared on the top of that crate, Tim, did you immediately think to yourself, I know who that is, or were you a bit like, that looks familiar?
No, my note says bloodhound. There's a question mark, because the drawing is he's small enough in the panel, and Andrea Milana is not cramming in every detail possible. And I think I'd sort of forgotten that the bloodhounds had goggles or visors. Okay, so the fight continues, and I also just that page where I was calling out the armor that could have been visually reestablished a little bit better, but Andrea Milana's stuff is amazing. And then also that fun sound effect. I also just want to say that page is a really exciting, fun page. Page 9, Milana's fight choreography, the parrying, the slashing, the blocking, the other blocking. This is a really exciting page, and there's the diagonals in the gutter, the gutters, the gaps between panels, all over the page. These really wonderful sound effects. There's just the impact of how the bloodhound's face compresses and ripples in that third to last panel, right as the as Beachhead's fist comes in. And Williamson is not overdoing it with the sort of super heroic quality of any of these Joes. You could argue he's overdoing it with Duke, but in the letters page they say, no, this Duke is sort of the wild man, and it's not the Duke yet. But Beachhead here is sort of fallible and not the strongest, bestest. He's very strong and very best, but not bestest. Something I just realized about this mission. I thought it would be easy. You turn the page. That was my first mistake. The sort of, these are the best of the best and they can do anything quality of G.I. Joe characters are tempered, and I appreciate Williamson's balance of just how good, but sort of, woundable, fallible these characters are. And, he needs to amp them up because, again, this is a universe that has alien robots and aliens. And, sooner or later, there could be a scene where a Transformer just steps on a bunch of Joes. I'm sure that's not going to happen, but they're quite fragile. So page 10, the one that you're on right now.
Okay.
Something occurred to me with this final panel where the rich jerk, what's his name? I keep forgetting his name. Victor Foley walks back in. These two women are in bed waiting for him. He's poured 3 glasses of wine. And I was struck by how sort of understated the sort of spiciness or potential debauchery of this scene is. And, Mark, you and I have learned from speaking with some people who made Devil's Due comics during the Devil's Due G.I. Joe era, that at the time, between 2001 and 2008, Hasbro was sometimes skittish about how sexy G.I. Joe could be. A character like the Baroness or Zorana or Zanya, sort of how they were posed, or who they were sort of standing next to. A couple covers were rejected or changed. And in the hands of, thinking of Jim Lee drawing Psylocke in 1990 and 1991, it's like, oh, that scene, I forget, X-Men number 7 or something, where she's taking a shower and Cyclops comes into the bathroom and she's flirting with him. And, all the steam is carefully placed to block her like otherwise naked body. And Jim Lee draws the panel with her like very, very big and pinup-y, which is totally fine. It's what he was doing. And that is not this scene. Both of the, like, one's wearing a shirt, one's completely covered, with sheets. They're very small. Their poses are, like a little anticipatory, but this is not like a sexy panel. This is just sort of the next story moment. So I thought, I don't know if this was a panel that Milana drew and then Hasbro said, oh, can you tone it down? Or if Skybound said, oh, let's just keep this panel like kind of toned down. And then as I was finishing thinking of that, the very first panel of the next page, page 11, Beachhead and several bloodhounds crash through the wall. And my note is, wait, they crash through a wall with studs and drywall? Isn't that for RoboCop? Like, can't only RoboCop do that? Can't RoboCop like punch through a wall and drag a guy through a wall? And then I remembered, wait, didn't we see this in a G.I. Joe comic recently? And I was like, RoboCop. And you're like, no, you had some other reference. So Mark, what was that reference that I can't remember?
I think it might have been even Beachhead Silent Missions when he was having that fight with the Alley Vipers.
Okay, so here is a fun moment of synchronicity where two different editors working on two different G.I. Joe continuities, allow a scene in a G.I. Joe comic where two different beachheads crash through a wall. It makes for a great visual, and it's certainly a fun interruption for this, terrible, creepy old guy who deserves some kind of justice. But are his walls made out of paper? Because Mark, when you and I got into that terrible fight last year at Assembly Required, and we were like beating each other up, and I punched you really hard, and you had a dagger, and I had some medieval armor, and there was a third person because there are three people in this scene. Like, when the three of us crashed into that wall, we just bounced off the wall. We didn't crash into the next hotel room. Remember?
Yeah, for a rich billionaire, you'd have thought he could afford slightly thicker walls. Particularly, he must be as deaf as a post, because you've got that fight happening in the other room through these paper thin walls, and he's not twigged at all.
So here's a small story logic thing. I don't mind. It's still fun. And I get it. There are aliens and alien robots in this world, and so things need to be amped up. You could argue that 2 pages later, when the like box shipment coffin thing gets pulled out of a window and lands on a road, being sped along by an 18-wheeler truck, that Beachhead would not be able to hold on. That just the impact of slamming down, would like break his wrists or something. Like, I don't need G.I. Joe comics to be realistic. I need them to be grounded. And this scene crashing through the wall is a little over the line for me. But it's drawn with such aplomb. And there's another really nice diagonal here, right? So the camera is not straight on the scene. One of the legs of this tripod of this camera is shorter than the other. So the whole scene has okay. Anyway.
And Barking Fridge points out here, speaking of RoboCop and smashing through a wall, he says, B *** leave. So that's bitches, leave. So this is a reference to
Clarence Boddicer's line.
Yeah, that's Kurtwood Smith, the actor from RoboCop, who ushers out very demurely some ladies from a particular scene. And I heard a great behind-the-scenes story about the filming of that scene, because the director, is it Paul Verhoeven? English isn't his first language, and particularly in that stage of his career, I think his English wasn't quite as strong. So he just knew these characters from the script as being the bitches. So as he was directing them, he was saying, okay, bitches, you go over here. Bitches, you do this. Bitches, you do that. So good RoboCop story there. There's just from the chat, let's interrupt the flow. There's Sind 5852 says, I want to see what they do with the mole rats. They have to be in this Energon universe. And Greg points out that Mole Rat's sole job is to mine Dark Energon after all. So Mole Rat was one of the new classified characters introduced and was one of the characters that was positioned as being an adversary to Night Force. So the things that lurk in the shadows, they're sort of because the Night Force goodies, the JoJo's, were kind of released as exclusives in a particular store. Was it Target? Walmart? I'm maybe mixing them up. Correct me in the comments which store it was. So they were sort of, as the Joes being the Night Force exclusives at Walmart. Thanks to everybody. And alongside some of the baddies, like the spookier, weirder characters like Mole Rats. So I would hazard a very, very strong bet that we'll see Mole Rats feature in the comic eventually. As you say, the comic would be the perfect place to kind of expand them as a character, because at this moment they only exist as a 6-inch piece of plastic.
Also, is Dark Energon, does that only exist in the classified toy line where it's describing the Mole Rat toy? In the Energon Universe comics, we know about Energon, but no one has said Dark Energon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. And then I guess the story progresses, and we don't have to linger on every single beat, but there's a great action sequence where the crate, it has a hook attached onto it. It is pulled out through the wall behind a truck. Beachhead is riding that crate like a bucking bronco, and blasts off the chain to release it before it is then, he's confronted by all of these bloodhounds on the motorcycle, and he gets away last minute by attaching a hook from the sky to be lifted away. It felt very much like a big bombastic kind of action sequence, from like Indiana Jones or big budget movie.
Yeah, that action scene is only 2 or 3 pages, depending on how you count. So there's a real economy there. Did you think when the bloodhounds are hooking the box, the shipping crate, with a chain, and he says, "What in Sam Hill are you chaining it to?" And there's a sound effect, and he turns his head. Did you think, oh, they're obviously attaching it to a helicopter? Did you have a pleasant surprise when you turned I did, when I turned the page, and it's a truck. It's an 18-wheeler, which is on a different scale, and more, literally grounded. Scotty Cameron says it's textbook Mission Impossible. I also, and there's 2 surprises for me. One, I turned the page and it's a truck, not any kind of plane or helicopter. 2, Beachhead is on the shipping container. He's on the crate, and that is something that happens between panels on the page turn. So at the bottom of page 11, he says, "What in Sam Hill are you chaining it to?" as he punches a bloodhound. And then the next panel, he's looking. And then you turn the page and he has already jumped on the shipping, the crates, and he's already riding it, as you said, like a bucking bronco. So that's a really good use of a page turn, not in this case as a shocking reveal. It's a small, fun reveal, but in jumping ahead 5 seconds in order to have a surprise and also not show it. We don't need to see 2 panels of Beachhead running over and jumping on the thing. Okay, looking at the end of my notes, and
we're getting some extra knowledge thrown at us here about Dark Energon. Scotty Cameron points out that Dark Energon is from the War Within comic from Dreamwave, and is featured in the War for Cybertron video games. And Frank Colosimo calls out that Dark Energon was also a big part of the Transformers Prime animated series.
Okay. Well, I'm a little embarrassed because I did watch all of Prime finally, and I love War Within. Those are different continuities. So we have not been introduced to Dark Energon in the Energon universe,
Correct.
but as a concept,
exists,
it's
yeah.
out there for current writers to grab and use if they want. I wanted to ask you on page 18, when Beachhead is talking to Flint and Lady J, and he says, "Save the sales pitch, Flint. I already heard all about Conrad's team. Bunch of damn cheerleaders fighting robots? Not for me, no thank you." And then
You said cheerleaders fighting robots, just to be clear. When I heard you saying that, I heard you saying cheese eaters.
I'm still working on my my Beachhead. All I've got is a little bit of dialogue from season 2 of the movie. In panel, where was that? Oh, okay. Sorry, the page before. I'm going to interrupt myself. The Skyhawk lands, and Flint and Lady J are walking away from it. Mark, is the Skyhawk a 2-seater?
It is here, isn't it? Yeah,
Okay.
It must
Well,
be.
there you go. I bet you, I don't have every episode of the 80s series committed to memory, or any. I bet you, as some of the vehicles are like a little bigger, a little smaller, depending on what the scene needs. I bet you there's a shot or two in a couple episodes where the Skyhawk does have 2 people in it, even though the toy is definitely one person is a seater. And who's flying the Skyhawk in the opening to G.I. Joe the movie? Is it Gung Ho? Is he the one who flies through the exploding fire bat?
Flint? Is it Flint?
It's Flint.
I know Flint sometimes
making the okay sign.
flies it.
Anyway, so remind me, Mark. There is a classified Skyhawk, right?
So that's a good point. There is not a classified Skyhawk yet, but there is a what's it called? A fans hobby Air Eagle. So this is a third-party company doing G.I. Joe alikes.
I think the word you're looking for is unauthorized.
Yeah. So they had, this was one that was that they originally had to rework because there was some objections from Hasbro that it was too similar to the Skyhawk. So they reworked it so that it was less similar, but you can still reconfigure it essentially so that it looks identical. And Fans Hobby have got they've done they're doing a Fang-alike, and they're doing an All Striker similar vehicle as well. And sort of their niche is sort of doing some extra things that you wouldn't necessarily get from a standard vehicle release, like lighting and stuff like that. So they've got a few bells and whistles. I don't think it has a second seat, but we're also but it's not a new innovation for the comic to do something slightly different with the vehicles, because you'll remember that back in the day for the HISS tanks, they also kind of played with the design of that versus the toy, and that would often be like a 2-seater or a slightly bigger vehicle compared to the original toy.
All right, so before I interrupted myself, the line that I wanted to ask you about on page 18, below Flint and Lady J walking toward us away from the Skyhawk, Flint says to Beachhead, "The world is changing." In terms of like, no, we might have to fight robots, and then the fake out is like, no, we're not going to fight robots. They fight robots. We're going to do other stuff. But I wanted to ask you, Mark, has someone else said that? Have we heard that line in a G.I. Joe comic in the last 12 months? Because that rung a bell for me.
Yeah, I think it's been said multiple times in similar ways. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head. But I definitely remember someone referencing that and saying that it's a sort of a piece of dialogue that has cropped up in a few places, if not identical dialogue, but sort of similar, talking to that similar theme. I wonder if it was Greg who made that point, because Greg tends to say very clever things.
Greg Augustin, who you just had on Talking Joe, right?
Exactly, yeah. Greg, who we had on last episode, talking about Command Files Volume 2, which I think the Kickstarter is still open for. So yeah, check out that issue to see and hear more of Greg.
All right, so how did you feel about the reveal on the final page of this issue?
Oh, right, of the bat. I didn't go into it thinking, like, having a definite thought in my head of what is in that crate. It's definitely going to be this thing, or I think it's going to be this thing. So I didn't have a preconceived idea of what would be in it. So I didn't have like a sort of an expectation to thwart or anything like that. But I did think probably my closest reaction would be, oh, is that all? Because we've seen bats before in a few different places. I don't think yet that the Joes have come nose to nose with a bat as yet. So sort of a bat to them is still a relatively new kind of undiscovered kind of concept. So I can see the value to the Joes of getting their hands on some bat technology to see it up close firsthand.
Yeah, I wasn't disappointed, but when I turned the page, I thought, oh, okay, I didn't have a guess, but this is a smaller deal or reveal than I was abstractly thinking. But then I thought,
it's like not introducing something brand new. And, sometimes that the new exciting thing is the thing that we sort of naturally kind of get drawn towards, I guess.
Yeah, because we keep doing this thing with the Energon Universe comics where we're counting and awaiting the first appearances, the first Energon Universe appearance of a character, equipment, technology. And this is not that. I kind of thought it might be. Again, I'm not disappointed. And I realized I shouldn't be disappointed, because for this team, here's why I might have been. Because the thing that happened in the previous issue was Duke and Cobra Commander have this big fight, and Cobra Commander, right, exactly. Scotty Cameron says Duke fought a bat at the end of Duke. Okay, so here's the 2 points that I'm trying to make at the same time. Duke's team knows about these and has seen these. Flint's team, maybe not. Or like you, Mark, sort of just said, maybe they know of them, they've seen pictures, but they need the proof. Or they need to make sure they don't get out there, because it's bad enough that Cobra has them, but you can't have a rich jerk with gray morals also having one, even if it's just going to be a trophy. But also, what this page needs to do, what this issue needs to do, is to bring Night Force, Flint's team, sort of more in line, even though they'll be doing different things from Duke's team, but more in line with Duke's team. So in the same way that we're tracking first appearances, we also need to track first interactions. When is Flint's team going to learn about Cobra? Well, I guess they already have, because here's a bat. But not that
I think we can also assume that because Hawk is in charge of both Duke's team and Flint's team will find out everything that Duke's team knows, but not the other way around.
Right. And we don't need to see a panel every time Duke's team has done something or seen someone where Hawk says to Flint, oh, by the way, here's Duke punching Cobra Commander. But we're gonna need a little bit of this, because Flint's team needs to have some of this connective tissue, so that when they go on missions, we sort of understand their motivation. It can't just be like you're doing interesting stuff. It has to be you're doing some of the cleanup for Duke's team, or you're doing the thing that Duke's team can't do. Scotty Cameron says, maybe they know of them through Hawk. My reading was that the bat we see here is the same bat that Duke fought in issue 5 of the Duke miniseries.
Although there is also a bunch of other destroyed bats from Destro's factories and stuff when they were being attacked by the Crimson Twins. So there are other destroyed bats out there that potentially this could be.
But the reason why I might have been, I'll just say I was a tiny bit disappointed with this page turn. Oh, it's just a bat, is because what happened at the end of the previous issue? Duke and Cobra Commander are fighting, and Cobra Commander grabs an important thing from the brainwave scanner, and it's a Transformers Energon universe Autobots mythology power source MacGuffin thing that is much more important or on a much bigger scale and is maybe one of a kind compared to a broken bat, which is A, broken, and B, one of hundreds or thousands. And like I think you were starting to say just now, we don't need every final page turn to be an escalation. You know, it's like, oh, the next issue, you're going to turn the page and they meet Unicron, right? Or like, you know, they make Serpentor. It's like, no, you can't keep doing that. You have to raise your stakes and then lower your stakes so you can raise them again. But there does need to be this connective tissue for motivation and sort of characters knowing, we know that they know what they know, because not so much can happen sort of off camera. And also, this asks a bunch of questions. Like, it may be that they just, you know, there's not even a piece of dialogue. Like, we took the bat back to Hawk and now it's like boxed up at the pit and Duke's team won't know about it. But I don't think they're going to like rebuild this and it's going to be a Joe bat. I don't think they're going to like open it up and trace it to Destro's factory. But this does offer up story potential for Flint's team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know. There might be a Joe bat. Who's to say? But yeah, I think that what these 6 issues are going to do is going to be much more like smaller stories. It sort of sounds belittling or putting it down, but sort of more focused stories, let's say, on particular mission, a particular character, and the wider story is probably going to pick up. The big story, let's say, is going to probably pick up in issue 13, and I think that will be connected to Duke's story because he does seem like the main character of the title. So I think that I would suspect that sort of dark matrix, let's call it, that bigger Duke Cobra Commander story will probably be picking up then rather than in these next few issues.
I have one more. I've gone through all my notes. I have one more thought. About this issue in larger context.
Okay, go on. I was gonna say let's talk. Make sure we talk about Major Blood, but whichever order you want to do it.
No, go back. You talk about Major Blood. I'll talk about my big thing after.
So we've got Major Blood making an appearance, as Tim says. That was felt like quite a big surprise, even though I knew it was the arc's name, and that we had the Bloodhounds. When he actually appeared, it did seem a little bit of a shock, particularly as his troops have failed, and then he guns them down. And this is not a new idea. This is definitely a trope, and it's something we saw a lot of in the pages of Battle Action Force when Major Baron Ironblood or Black Major even, or Cobra Commander would, have his troops, suffering his disappointment and wrath and gunning them down. So this is what Major Blood is doing here. It's less common to see this in the pages of an American G.I. Joe, and I also think it's bad HR. Surely it's hard. These guys are going to be difficult to recruit and train up, build up their loyalty, just gunning them down, it's gonna play havoc with your hiring for the next wave of Bloodhound troopers. Surely, it's like, can you just you sit down for the interview for this role? Can you just tell me about why the last job holder left? Well, they didn't do so well, and had to shoot them at the end of the mission. I'm afraid. As long as you don't do that, you'll be A-okay.
On the next page after this one and the page after, Andrea Milana does a lot of nice body acting with Beachhead, where after he jumps down from the crate, he's leaning forward and slams his fist into the side of the box, and then he leans forward and puts his fist against his forehead and closes his eyes. I think he's leaning against the box itself, although we're in the box, so he's leaning against us. And then he kicks the dirt. He literally kicks the dirt, the aw shucks kick, which gets his own sound effect, KRSH. And then he on the following page, he swings his arm around, he swats his hand around when he says to Lady J, "You want a trophy?" Again, nice work from. I'm transitioning away from your Major Blood.
Yeah, I was still talking about Major Blood.
Keep talking about Major Blood.
So we sort of always try and keep track of how did the designs of these characters correspond to their classified appearances, and Major Blood here, as before, very much looking like his classified design. A lot of connectivity there. This Major Blood is getting a re-release as a toy. With some added kind of red highlights to his uniform. In the comic, we're sort of getting blue highlights. I'm guessing that is a sort of just a color choice of Lee Loughridge, rather than necessarily too much active thought about trying to match it to a particular design. A different
that toy re-release, has Hasbro been doing that a lot? And is the art that's going to be on the packaging, is it the same art as the first Major Blood classified release?
They've been doing it a bit here and there, of re-releasing a figure, normally under the auspices of re-releasing it with slight variations to make it closer to the original design, the 80s design, and re-releasing it as a retro figure with a bubble, sort of design for the packaging. I don't think that's what they're doing here, and also the box approach now is to not feature sort of that painted art in quite the same way that they are now previously. So there's less focus on an art image. So I don't believe they would be recycling the original Kabinski painted art to the original Blood release, which was wonderful, by the way. But a big difference. So there's not a huge amount of change to this particular figure with the re-release. I think the main driver is that it was released as an exclusive, the first Cobra Island themed exclusive, and it was harder to get hold of. So it's just a way of getting that toy into people's hands. As I say, one of the main changes they've made is to have red highlights, which they've not replicated here. But also, his patch on his eye just seems to be a more retro analog piece of black cloth over his eye, rather than the design that they used for classified, which is a kind of more like a bionic kind of attachment type of thing.
This
so
is
that's
a slightly different head sculpt.
No, I'm talking about the art on the page, the patch here. Okay. So both the toys have a kind of a kind of a robotic eye attachment patch type thing, whereas here it just looks more like a pirate patch.
When Major Blood meets Megatron or something, and half his brain is replaced by the Dark Matrix or something, and he can have a cyborg eye thing. Eye patch. And
so Blood here says, his motivation for doing this whole thing is less about trying to get the bat and more about a different mission. So he says, "This was never my target. And what accents like it? It was like slightly Australian. This was never my target anyway. My hope was that this would draw out her team. Never expected there were two of them. Now, if I'm going to find my prey, I'm going to need to hire new help. Immediately, he's going to his hiring policy and, LinkedIn, Bloodhounds, whatever.
Are you? Did he drive into the mansion where the hole in the side was? Grab that curved sword. He's like, I'm going to hire some ninjas. They'll be in purple. Mark will be so happy.
So he's talking about draw out her team. Clearly, what he is doing here is talking about her being the Baroness. And why is he so focused on the Baroness? It's because she was the one what shot him through the head and cost him his eye. So back in the pages of Duke, we had that brutal panel of the Major Blood being shot from behind by the Baroness. And then when we next see him in the pages of Duke, he says, "She owes me an eye." So that is why he is so focused on specifically the Baroness.
There's some crazy intense Jordi Belair colors on that. Those reds, all these dot screens here. My broader thought about this issue. You want to click off that panel since it's so
Too
delicious.
much.
I was thinking about this issue, right, in this paragraph in the letters page that Williamson says, sometimes they will introduce new characters, ... I promise you they will never feel like filler. They will always matter to the Uber narrative we're telling in G.I. Joe. And I realized for this, so this is Beachhead's first Energon universe appearance. He didn't show up in one panel in the Free Comic Book Day issue. He's not in the background of the first 6 issues. He shows up here, and he's the star of this issue, even though 2 other Joes show up, and there are a bunch of different bad guys, and he gets to do several different kind of things. He can sneak, he can punch and kick and sword fight, he can shoot, he can do a chase scene thing, he can tell you what he wants, what he doesn't want, he can sort of argue with Flint.
He can sing.
And like we said at the beginning, sort of referencing from his file card and from the animated movie. And I thought, okay, here's a big contrast where the Energon Universe G.I. Joe has a big cast. And even though I don't know a lot of the characters really well, Stalker, I can say like 1 or 2 things about. Beachhead, I can say 3 or 4 things about. Duke, I can say like 10 things about. Baroness, I can say 12 things about. And I realized a comparison here is Daniel Warren Johnson's writing on the monthly Transformers. I like that book. I'm a big Transformers fan, and as many G.I. Joe comics I have read that many Transformers comics. And the only reason why I'm not also co-hosting a weekly Transformers podcast is because one podcast is a lot. And I've been thinking about Daniel Warren Johnson's writing on Transformers. It's really exciting, but he's introducing a lot of characters. And previous issues, just in the last 6 issues, we've had all the Constructicons, all the Combaticons, all the aerial bots. And except for one line about, who's the head aerial bot? He's got a fear of heights. Not Slingshot. Slingshot? No. Not Skydive. Not Airwave. That's a G.I. Joe. Not Firebolt. Slingshot? Anyway, sorry. There isn't anything to differentiate them yet. And Transformers is a hard book to write because every Transformer changes into an... Thank you. Barking Fridge reminds me it's Silverbolts. Transformers is a hard book to write because every character turns into kind of another character, right? It's still going to be the same guy, but they do a different thing. They run and talk and fight, and then they drive or fly and talk and maybe fight. But that is somewhat analogous to how writing a G.I. Joe comic is hard, because they're also vehicles, right? You can have the Joes do something, but then you got to have the Skyhawk do something and the Thunder Machine do something. But I feel like Johnson's writing on Transformers has prioritized, and there's been some great human moments, and the characters have died, and it's been upsetting, and there's been mythology building, and there've been great sort of top level, Optimus Prime does something, Megatron does something, Starscream has done a dozen really cool things, Shockwave, Soundwave. But it does feel like in the last 5 or 6 issues, 20 new characters have been introduced. And while the story is still moving forward, I'm starting to have so many characters that I don't really know who they are and how they're different from each other, except for that I'm a long-term Transformers fan, and I know from the old toy tech specs and the Marvel comics and the Sunbow cartoon and the Dreamwave comics and the IDW comics. And this is a good example of how to introduce a character and give them something very specific to do, and also introduce a couple other characters and give them something specific to do. But I know what Beachhead wants, and this issue is not about spectacle. And so I think I'm saying the same thing in 2 different ways. I like the smaller scale of this issue, that it is more character focused, but it does push the overall story forward. And the Transformers books are pretty dense. Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona, who's drawn the book since issue 7, pages often have like 10 or 12 or 14 panels. And that's a hard book to draw because of the scale differences, and lots of Transformers you can't draw from like behind because you don't know what you're looking at. I just see part of a car. Whereas if you draw Flint from behind, it's a guy and it's Flint. But I do wish some issues of Transformers recently would take this approach with a smaller focus. And again, it's a different scale because it's 2 planets, right? And it's a war that's thousands or millions of years old. Whereas, G.I. Joe's not been around forever and Cobra's not been around forever. Yet still, I would love an issue of Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers that's more like this issue of G.I. Joe, which is me actually just paying a compliment to G.I. Joe that this is a really satisfying issue. Infinite Entertainment says, "This has been a complaint I'm having with all these universes. Absolute at DC, Ultimate at Marvel, Transformers, etc. They're relying too much on knowledge of old material, and it's making it hard to care about everything." And this argument that we keep sort of touching upon, Mark, it's like, publish more comics. You've got so many characters, publish more comics. Then you can have more space to tell more stories. Some can be big, some can be small, and Skybound's response, once again, would be, we're just publishing 3 monthly comics. We're keeping it contained so we can keep quality high. And they don't quite say this, but because more than 3 comics is a big ask of some readers because it gets pretty expensive.
Indeed. So I think we have pretty much talked about everything.
What about that other cool sentence on the letters page?
The other cool what?
Another cool sentence on the letters page.
Okay, go on. Oh, yes,
Reilly,
yeah.
Tom Reilly will be back for our next epic and wild story arc. I was hoping that Reilly hadn't been lured away by DC or something creator owned with Williamson at, I don't know, Image, that he had said he really wanted to do 12 issues in a row. I don't know that he said this in an interview. I think he might have said this to me. That that's a good sort of personal, professional goal to have. Mm-hmm. But doing 6 issues in a row, this is now me extrapolating. I don't think he said this next part. By the end of the 5th one, you're really tired, and you want to take a break or have a refresh. But so Skybound very smartly got an artist we're familiar with from a previous G.I. Joe miniseries to do this 2nd arc, and yes, Reilly seems to be on board for, let's say, all of the 3rd arc. So we'll have this sort of hopscotching, leapfrogging sort of familiarity.
Yeah. And I wonder to what degree he's going to be using that time to be sort of making a head start on writing G.I. Joe issue 13. I imagine it would be something that writer Joshua Williamson could be capable of writing that far ahead and having, knowing sort of what he's plotting out. But also he might just be taking a break, not working quite as hard and killing himself with all of that effort. As you say, at the end of Duke, he did tweet. At the end of G.I. Joe, issue 6, he did, do that, put out that tweet with that bruised and battered Duke and say, "This is what I felt like at the end of these issues." But you also might sort of, be doing some different covers. Maybe do a couple of one shots for Marvel or DC or something like that. We are going to see.
Reilly did do a Fantastic Four variant cover recently. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, tell us about the comic coming out.
So to be released very soon is a one-shot comic, a Wolverine issue, which I think is written by Chris Claremont and illustrated by Tom Reilly, which appeared before in some difficult to find place. I think it was in a collection as a backup story there, and so we're finally getting a Wolverine, a reprint of this Wolverine with specifically Tom Reilly's story available.
Yeah, so there was this limited edition hardcover. I don't think even Marvel technically published it. It was not available sort of for regular comic book stores to order. I think it was like the best of Chris Claremont, something like that. And there was this new story, and it is a prologue or epilogue or in-between story from the famous 1982 Wolverine miniseries written by Chris Claremont and penciled by Frank Miller. And that's let's say 22 pages, 20 pages is now going to be published as a single issue available for general release in, I think, 2 months. And the title of this comic is Wolverine by Chris Claremont #1, which I don't love because that diminishes Tom Reilly's contribution. But I think what they're trying to do is to put it on the same level as that miniseries, which the graphic novel collection of these last 15 years has just been called Wolverine by Claremont and Miller. That original miniseries where Wolverine goes to Japan does not have a subtitle. It's not like Wolverine Ninja Knights or anything. It's just called Wolverine by Claremont and Miller. And so by titling this issue Wolverine by Claremont, I think they're trying to equate it. It's going to have, so this was drawn a couple years ago. It's all Tom Reilly. He's not doing the covers. I think it's like Steve McNiven, like sort of doing a Frank Miller style, and someone else. Right, covered by Steve McNiven and then Young Yoon. But I'm very excited because Reilly's great, and this is a fun way to make an important comic sort of higher profile. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so as you were saying, maybe not drawing 6 issues of G.I. Joe immediately after drawing 6 issues of G.I. Joe is a way for Reilly to do some other work or to just relax, or one and then the other.
Mm-hmm. So as well, there will be these handsome hardcovers that are being released. Transformers, Void Rivals, and G.I. Joe.
Transformers is out already.
Mm-hmm. And those are, so Void Rivals, Transformers are both available now, right, and G.I. Joe to follow in June, and the G.I. Joe book essentially picking up both Duke and Cobra Commander with some extras in there too. So great for people discovering it for the first time, or people who want a handsome hardcover on their bookshelf.
Do we know when Skybound has published its hardcovers, which have 12 issues at a time, do those include the covers? Because we know that Skybound's 5 or 6 issues at a time soft covers do not try to include all of the covers. They'll have 2 or 3 of them, one on the front cover, part of one on the back cover, maybe one as the first page. And in fact, I was gonna read this letter, but was it Void Rivals or Transformers last month? Someone wrote in a very short and very thoughtful letter that said, "I don't like this policy," and the editor said, "Sorry, it was here. The policy was here before I got here."
Frank has pointed out that there's lots of covers included in the hardback Transformers cover. It'd be interesting to know if it's comprehensive or if it's just a smattering or what. But potentially maybe they have a few bigger covers and maybe some thumbnails. I don't know. But yeah, so Scotty was thinking the same as myself, that the Invincible hardcovers that broadly follow this kind of model do have covers in the back.
And then if several years from now there's a compendium of the first 50 or so Energon universe comics, if the past is prologue, we will know that each chapter will be divided just by its A cover, and there's no additional cover gallery in the back.
So on the radar to follow is Transformers issue 21 on June 11th. Will we see any more from G.I. Joe appearances in there? And G.I. Joe issue 8 is due to come out June the 18th, although this particular issue did get delayed by 1 week. So that is why the gap between now and June the 18th seems relatively small. It might be that this one ends up slipping a little bit as well. Tim, I think you're probably looking up the the latest view of the release date on your computer.
I'm just looking up the image. I'm just looking up the image website. The image website lists issue 8 as June 18th.
Okay, so for the moment, it's still June the 18th. And we will cover it as it comes out. So I think we are due to record that one a little bit ahead of time and release it on a relatively normal schedule, because the weekend after the 18th is Joe Fest. Both Tim and myself will be at Joe Fest. Greg's saying, review it live.
Well, we're good as podcast guests of the convention. I think we're going to be given a table off to the side in the podcast area. So, Greg, that is possible. It is hard for me to sit down for 120 minutes during a G.I. Joe convention and not walk around and look at stuff or go to panels.
And just talk to me when there's better people to be talking to.
Speaking of Mark and I at Joe Fest, if you would like your second chance to see if 2 or 3 people fighting can crash through a wall, Mark and I will be grappling and then fist fighting. I don't know if it's in the lobby, in a hallway, his hotel room, or mine, but we will be fighting to see if we can recreate this scene from issue 7, page 11.
I was thinking more Duke and Risk.
That's what it was.
I'm Duke and you're Risk, let's say.
I've got little electrical hand. Someone says.
And as always, coming to Joe Fest, I will be bringing with me my Talking Joe. Let's call them collectible trading cards. So far there has been 3 released. Number 1, Snake Eyes by Rod Wiggum, as a homage to the original issue 31, I believe it is, with Snake Eyes in the wood cabin. The second collectible trading card was, I believe, this one, Andrew Lee Griffith. This was the cover to his Storm Shadow Long Range Recon Patrol issue that never happened. And the third one is this one. It's Tim and myself as G.I. Joe characters, as created by Giggly. And the plan is to create and bring along a 4th trading card. to JoeCon as a con exclusive. So if I
crashing
remember
through
to
a
do
wall.
it, if I remember to do it now, it will be ready in time to go. But I need to remember to do it very soon because otherwise it won't be ready.
Folks, I will remind Mark right after we sign off, and also one day after we sign off, because I need to complete my set.
And hopefully we'll be seeing some of potentially the guys in the chat or other Talking Joe listeners at the con.
My store does have issues of G.I. Joe. If you were missing IDW issues, I can be convinced to, if you want to send my store money before Joe Fest and save on shipping, I can be convinced to bring them to Joe Fest. Because while there, in the last 2 years, were many comic book dealers, and a few people had some IDW issues of G.I. Joe. Not many and not a lot. So if you're missing some, email my store and so I can sell you some comics. I'm thinking particularly of what's 284 to 300? What's the run that hasn't been reprinted yet?
What did we the Cobra Casino saga? Let's call it All In and the other thing. Yeah.
Next episode I'll lead with that. Send me your money and I can sell you some comics.
Excellent. So next time on Talking Joe, we will be covering the issues as they come, all of the latest issues as they come out. ARA, G.I. Joe issue 8. We'll have some JoeCon, Joe Fest exclusive material, I am sure. We'll also be dipping into the archives of G.I. Joe and bring you some things from G.I. Joe comics history. And you can find all of those things being posted to our social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got a lively discussion going on there. And it's also got links to YouTube and our audio-only podcast. So a reminder that pretty much every episode these days is getting released with a video, but then I will also optimize the audio from that, remove all of the and things like that, what I just done right now, and release that as a much tidier and more professional audio-only version of the show. So find it there. And then also a shout out to our Patreon subscribers. So patreon.com/talkingjoe is the place to go for that. Big thanks to Richard, Sam, Bill, Christopher, Justin, Rob, Shane, Simon, Chris, Joe, Craig, Frank, Mike, D, Shane V2. This one has a robotic eye, but it is coloured red. It's different to the V1. Infinite Entertainment, who I just saw in the comments. There we go. Thanks for the show, guys. Thanks for listening and supporting. And our newest Patreon member, Patrick. Tim, where can you be found when you are not talking to me about G.I. Joe?
My partners and I post video essays on television and film at our YouTube channel. That's at Atomic Abe, as in like Abraham Lincoln, Atomic Abe. I own a brick and mortar comic book store, Hub Comics, that's just outside of Boston. And I write about G.I. Joe at my blog, arealamericanbook.com.
Very good. So I think we've pretty much covered everything, but before we go, Tim, am I forgetting something?
Nobody Beats Talking Joe, an international podcast.
Laters!